Most people think farming means planting every spring and harvesting every fall. An endless cycle of tilling, seeding, fertilizing, and starting over from scratch year after year. And that is exactly how modern industrial agriculture works, which is why it requires billions of dollars in equipment, synthetic fertilizers made from natural gas, herbicides, pesticides, and fuel. Lots and lots of fuel. It is an extraordinarily expensive, fragile, and exhausting way to produce food. And here is the thing. The Amish know this. They have always known this, which is why, quietly, for generations, they have been doing something fundamentally different on their farms. Something that most agricultural scientists only started paying serious attention to in the last 20 years. The Amish have built their food production around crops that you plant once and harvest essentially forever, perennial crops. And the 10 that they rely on most heavily are the reason Amish families eat extraordinarily well, at almost zero ongoing cost, year after year after year. The first crop on this list is one that almost no modern gardener plants because the results take years to see. And that is exactly why the Amish love it. Asparagus is one of the most productive perennial vegetables in existence, but it demands patience. You plant the crowns, and for the first 2 years, you do not harvest a single spear. You let the plant establish itself, building an enormous root system that can extend 3 feet deep into the soil and spread 4 feet wide. By year 3, you get a modest harvest. By year 5, a mature asparagus bed is producing abundantly. And here is the part that changes everything. A well-maintained asparagus bed produces reliably for 20 to 30 years. Some heritage beds on Amish farms have been producing for 50 years or more, tended by the grandchildren of the people who planted them. The modern world is too impatient for asparagus. The Amish are not. They plant it knowing they are creating food infrastructure, not just a garden bed. One properly established asparagus bed, roughly 4 feet by 20 feet, can supply a family with fresh asparagus every spring for decades without ever being replanted. The ongoing maintenance is minimal. Cut the ferns back in fall, top dress with compost once a year, keep the weeds down in the first couple of seasons. After that, it largely takes care of itself. There is also a nutritional timing dimension that the Amish prize enormously. Asparagus is one of the very first crops to emerge in spring, often pushing through the soil in late March or early April before the ground has fully warmed. After months of root cellar storage and preserved foods through winter, fresh asparagus arriving in early spring is not just a vegetable. It is a signal that the hungry season is ending and the land is producing again. That psychological and nutritional reset matters deeply in a community that lives closely with the rhythms of the seasons. The second crop is horseradish, and if you have never thought of horseradish as a survival crop, you are about to change your mind. Horseradish is one of the most aggressively perennial plants you can put in the ground. You plant it once, and your primary challenge from that point forward is not growing it. It is containing it. The roots spread laterally every year, producing new plants from every fragment left in the soil. Try to remove a horseradish plant, and you will understand immediately why the Amish plant it with complete confidence that it will never disappear. Beyond its unstoppable growth habit, horseradish is extraordinarily valuable medicinally. It is a potent antibacterial and antiviral. It clears sinus congestion, supports immune function, and has been used in Amish communities for generations as both a food condiment and a natural remedy. The active compound responsible for that searing, eye-watering heat, allyl isothiocyanate, is the same compound that makes it so effective against respiratory infections and blocked sinuses. Amish families grate it fresh, preserve it in vinegar, and reach for it through the winter when fresh vegetables are scarce and illness moves through the household. It costs nothing after the initial planting, requires no inputs whatsoever, and provides both nutrition and medicine indefinitely from the same root. In a community without easy access to pharmacies or medical clinics, a plant that both flavors food and actively fights infection is not a condiment. It is a cornerstone of household health. The third crop is rhubarb, and like asparagus, it is something that modern gardeners frequently overlook because of the multi-year establishment period. That is the Amish advantage in a nutshell. They think generationally. They plant things knowing that the full benefit may not arrive for 2 or 3 years, but when it does, it arrives every single year for the rest of their lives. A rhubarb crown planted today will produce for 15 to 20 years minimum, often considerably longer if it is divided and tended properly. Amish families harvest rhubarb stalks every spring starting in year 2, using them for pies, preserves, sauces, and fermented drinks. Rhubarb is extraordinarily cold hardy. It will come back reliably in hardiness zones 3 through 8, which covers most of the United States and Canada. It requires almost no care beyond an occasional division every 5 to 7 years to keep it vigorous, and those divisions produce new crowns that can be shared with neighbors or expanded into new beds at zero cost. What the Amish particularly value about rhubarb is its arrival timing. It is one of the first harvests of the spring, appearing weeks before most other garden crops, filling the hungry gap between winter storage and the summer garden. Its tart, acidic nature also makes it one of the best natural preserves. Rhubarb jam and rhubarb compote have a high enough acid content to preserve well without excessive sugar, which matters significantly in a household managing its pantry carefully through a long winter. The fourth crop is something that most people only know as a weed, stinging nettles. And this one tends to surprise people, but hear this out, because nettles are one of the most nutritionally dense plants that exists anywhere on Earth. The Amish have used nettles for centuries, and they understand something that modern nutrition science has only recently confirmed. Young nettle leaves, blanched or cooked to remove the sting, contain more protein per gram than almost any other leafy green, along with extraordinary concentrations of iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and vitamins A, C, and K. They taste remarkably similar to spinach when cooked and can be used in soups, served as a cooked side green, steeped into medicinal teas, and dried for use throughout the year. Nettles are perennial, spreading readily from underground rhizomes, and once established, they return every spring without any intervention whatsoever. They thrive in the rich, slightly moist soil, often found near barns and compost areas. Exactly the kind of marginal, semi-wild land that every Amish farm produces in abundance. The Amish plant them in out-of-the-way corners, along fence lines, near outbuildings, and harvest them each spring as one of the earliest available green foods. Dried nettle is also one of the most effective natural sources of bioavailable iron, something that matters enormously in a community that relies heavily on plant-based food through the winter months. A single neglected patch of nettles, completely unattended, will supply a household with mineral-rich food and tea from the same plant for decades. The fact that the modern world calls this plant a weed and pays landscapers to eliminate it from gardens is one of the more expensive nutritional mistakes in common practice. The fifth crop is Jerusalem artichoke, also called sunchoke, and this one is a genuine revelation if you have never grown it. Jerusalem artichokes are native to North America, which means they are naturally adapted to the climate, the pests, and the soil conditions across most of the continent in a way that imported European crops simply are not. They grow from tubers, small, knobby, potato-like roots, and once planted, they return every single year from any tubers left in the ground after harvest. You do not need to save seed. You do not need to order new planting stock. Any fragment of tuber left in the ground after you dig your harvest will sprout the following spring and produce a full, vigorous plant. The above-ground plant grows 6 to 10 feet tall, produces bright yellow flowers that draw pollinators from across the farm, and provides effective windbreak protection when planted along field edges. The tubers themselves are harvested in fall and are extraordinarily productive. A modest planting can easily yield over 100 pounds of food per season. They store excellently in the ground through winter and can be dug fresh as needed across the cold months. meaning the ground itself acts as a natural refrigerator. Nutritionally, Jerusalem artichokes are rich in inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, making them not just a calorie source, but an active contributor to digestive health. The Amish use them roasted, in soups and stews, sliced raw in winter salads, and as supplemental animal feed for the portion of the harvest that exceeds household needs. They require no fertilizer, no irrigation once established, and no replanting. Ever. The sixth crop is one that every single Amish farm has in abundance, and it is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history, the apple tree. This one might seem obvious, but the depth of the Amish relationship with their apple orchards goes far beyond what most people imagine. Amish families typically maintain multiple apple varieties chosen specifically to stagger the harvest across the full season. Early varieties ripening in July and August, mid-season varieties in September, and late-keeping varieties in October that store through winter without any preservation effort at all. A mature apple tree, which takes 5 to 7 years from planting to reach full production, can produce 300 to 500 pounds of fruit per year for decades running. Some heritage apple trees on Amish farms are well over 100 years old and still producing abundantly. The Amish press apples into cider, dry them in thin slices on wooden racks, make apple butter in enormous community batches, ferment them into vinegar, which is itself a critical preservation and medicinal tool used throughout the Amish kitchen year-round, and store the late-keeping varieties in root cellars where they remain fully edible through February and March. Every part of the apple harvest has a designated use. The windfalls go to the pigs, the culls get pressed into cider, the finest specimens go into cold storage for winter eating. There is no waste because the Amish cannot afford waste and have built systems over generations to ensure none occurs. One orchard planted by one generation feeds 4 or 5 generations of the same family. That is the multi-generational calculus the Amish are always quietly working with. The 7th crop is blackberries and raspberries, which the Amish grow in dense, productive hedgerows that serve double duty as both food source and livestock fencing. Cane fruits are technically biennial in their above-ground growth. Each individual cane lives for 2 years, but the root system is perennial and sends up vigorous new canes every single year, indefinitely, without any replanting. Once established, a blackberry or raspberry hedgerow requires almost no management and produces prolifically every summer without fail. The fruit is eaten fresh during the harvest window, preserved as jam, dried for winter use, fermented into wine and fruit vinegar, and used medicinally. Blackberry root bark in particular has been used in Amish folk medicine for generations as a highly effective treatment for digestive complaints, a serious concern historically in communities without convenient access to modern medical care. The canes pruned out after their second year of production become garden stakes, kindling, and compostable organic matter that feeds back into the soil. Nothing is discarded, and the hedgerow itself, planted along a field edge or property boundary, creates a physical barrier that even the most determined livestock will not push through. A mature blackberry hedge is essentially impenetrable. That eliminates the need for expensive fence posts and wire along those sections of the property, saving both money and labor while simultaneously producing food. It is the kind of elegant, multifunction thinking that appears throughout the Amish farm system, where one thing always performs 2 or 3 jobs simultaneously. The 8th crop is Comfrey, and this one functions differently from everything else on this list, because Comfrey is not primarily a human food crop at all. It is a system crop. It is something the Amish grow not to eat themselves, but to make every other thing they grow perform dramatically better. Comfrey has a deep taproot that extends 6 to 8 feet down into the subsoil, pulling up minerals, particularly potassium, phosphorus, and calcium, that are completely beyond the reach of shallow-rooted vegetable plants. Cut the large leaves back to the ground and lay them around your vegetables and fruit trees, and as they decompose, they release those deep-mined minerals directly into the root zone of whatever is growing nearby. This process is called dynamic accumulation, and it means Comfrey functions as a free, self-replenishing, perpetually available fertilizer system. The Amish have been doing this on their farms for generations without ever using the term dynamic accumulation. They just know from long observation that things grow bigger and healthier when Comfrey is nearby, and they plant it accordingly throughout the garden and orchard. They also use the large hairy leaves as a high-protein fodder supplement for chickens and pigs, both of which eat it readily and thrive on it. Comfrey leaves can additionally be made into a powerful liquid fertilizer by soaking them in water for several weeks, producing a dark, nutrient-dense concentrate that feeds garden plants as effectively as a synthetic fertilizer, except it costs nothing and improves the soil biology rather than degrading it. The plant regrows vigorously from its root after cutting and can be harvested 4 to 6 times per growing season without any diminishment in vigor. Like horseradish, once established, it is essentially impossible to kill. Amish farms position Comfrey throughout the garden and orchard perimeter, using it as a living, perpetually regenerating fertility engine that asks for nothing in return and gives back constantly. The 9th crop is elderberry, and this is one that has seen an explosion of mainstream interest in recent years. But the Amish have been growing and depending on it for generations without needing any outside validation. Elderberry is a large, fast-growing shrub that produces enormous clusters of small, dark purple berries in late summer and reaches full production within just 2 to 3 years of planting, making it one of the fastest establishing perennials on this entire list. For a community built on patience and long-term thinking, a productive perennial that delivers results in 2 years is genuinely exciting. The berries are among the most potent immune-supporting foods in the plant kingdom, extraordinarily rich in anthocyanins and flavonoids that have been studied extensively for their effects on viral infections and immune response. The Amish make elderberry syrup, elderberry wine, elderberry jam, and elderberry-infused vinegar, all produced and stored in quantity for use throughout the winter cold and flu season. The flowers, which arrive in early summer weeks before the berries, are themselves edible and medicinally valuable. Elderflower cordial, elderflower fritters, and elderflower tea are all traditional Amish preparations that capture the benefits of the plant at the very beginning of its seasonal cycle, before the fruit has even set. The plant grows readily in hedgerows, along stream banks, and in the partly shaded areas at the edges of fields where little else of food value will grow productively. It asks for nothing beyond space and a few years of patience. Then it provides both medicine and food simultaneously, from the same plant, in the same season, for decades, without interruption. The 10th crop is the one with the longest time horizon, and arguably the most profound implications of anything on this list: the chestnut tree. Chestnut trees were once the dominant food tree of the eastern United States, constituting nearly a quarter of the entire eastern hardwood forest canopy before the chestnut blight of the early 20th century wiped out approximately 4 billion trees in just a few catastrophic decades. It remains one of the most ecologically devastating events in American natural history, and the loss of that food resource has never been fully appreciated or mourned by the wider culture. The Amish, particularly those in communities with access to blight-resistant hybrid and Chinese chestnut varieties, have been quietly replanting chestnuts for generations, rebuilding something that the rest of the world has largely forgotten was ever there. A mature chestnut tree produces between 50 and 100 pounds of nutritionally dense nuts per year, and it does this annually and reliably for well over a century. Chestnuts are unique among all tree nuts in that they are low in fat and high in complex carbohydrates, meaning they function metabolically far more like a grain than a nut. They can be ground into flour for bread and pastries, roasted and eaten whole, boiled and mashed as a potato substitute, dried and stored in cool conditions for months without spoiling. Before corn and wheat became the dominant staple crops of America, chestnuts were the primary caloric foundation for both humans and livestock across a vast portion of the eastern continent. The Amish who are replanting chestnuts today are operating consciously on a 50 and 100-year timescale. The trees they put in the ground this year will reach peak production when their grandchildren are raising families of their own. That is not just agriculture. That is an act of profound, multi-generational responsibility, expressed through the quiet, patient act of planting a tree that you yourself may never see fully mature. If this changed the way you think about what a garden or a farm can truly be, subscribe, because we are going deeper into the full Amish self-sufficiency system, and what comes next is just as practical and just as eye-opening as everything you just heard.